Spring is here, which means a lot of midlife women are thinking about fat loss. And there are some very common mistakes that women are repeating over and over again. So today I want to go over 4 of the biggest issues women have, women who have started eating more protein and have noticed that they're gaining weight. They are eating clean and they're still not losing weight. When you are trying to track, what on earth do you do with things like stews? How to choose a good protein powder. So if you are into eating healthier, but not gaining weight or even trying to lose weight, then this episode is for you. And we'll start with the first one, which is one that I see so many women asking. And that is women are starting to understand that they should be eating more protein. And then, they notice that their scale weight is going up. And they're like, what is going on? So the very simplest answer to this is that you probably have not adjusted your other eating to take into account the additional protein that you're consuming. So what I see is that they take what they've been eating up until now and they just add more protein on top. So they're adding that protein shake or having that protein bar, or maybe even just, adding more meat to their plate. And they're not taking into account that that protein bar is another 200, 250 calories. That protein shake probably around the same. And when you add those up and you start eating that day after day, you are in a calorie surplus. And when you're in a calorie surplus, then of course your weight's going to go up. You're eating more than you need. So when you start eating more protein, you need to look at your whole picture and then make sure that you're still staying in the amount of calories that has allowed you to stay in a nice weight. Because a lot of us have reached a point where we kind of know what keeps our weight about the same. If I eat like this, my weight will stay pretty steady. And you need to find a new habit that will keep your weight steady. And absolutely the best way to do this would be to track precisely what you were eating when your weight was staying steady so that you understand what your maintenance calories are, and then just rejig what your maintenance calories are comprised of. So if you're adding a protein shake, you need to take calories out of somewhere else. Okay, so I hope that's pretty clear. And it's something that maybe you don't think about when you just start to add protein when you're starting to strength train. And then I will mention that there are a few other factors that can come into play here. So it's not all about not adjusting your diet. It may be that your muscles are taking in a little bit more liquid, especially if you start taking creatine, then your muscles will take in a little bit more water, and that may increase your weight a little bit. Maybe a little bit of muscle swelling. These are not dangerous things, but make sure that the weight is not that you are now overeating on a consistent basis, because that will lead to weight gain and not good weight gain. I mean, unless you were underfed before, but assuming everything was good when you got started and you just add more calories, it's going to lead you in the wrong direction. Okay. Question number 2, and this is another one that comes up so often. Women are like, I'm eating clean and I'm still not losing weight. Ladies, there is a difference between eating healthy foods and eating at a calorie deficit, okay? There are a lot of healthy foods out there that have a lot of calories in them. You start having avocados, bananas, nuts, seeds, these kinds of things. They bring with them a lot of nutrients, yes, fiber, all kinds of nice and good things, but they also bring with them calories. So it is not enough to just kind of clean up and swap the chips for the avocado. You need to look at how many calories you're actually eating. That is what is going to make the difference. So really, number 1 and number 2, you can see that you really need to get a sense of what you're eating, like how many calories you're eating. And you are not going to get that information without tracking. And I am the first one to say that tracking is a pain in the butt, right? It is effort. You need to have a food scale. You need to be weighing everything. You need to be inputting it into a tracker, though I've made it way easier now because I have trained ChatGPT to be my tracker. So I can just take a picture of what I've eaten that day, not picture of the food, but picture of 3 grams of butter, 4 grams of whatever, peanut butter. And then it does the calculating for me. So that has made tracking so much easier. But you need accurate tracking. And accurate tracking means you're weighing everything, that you're not taking a little extra nibble, you're not licking that spoon, that kind of thing. So that is required. The third question is related to that, which is how do I track things like a stew, right? You make a stew and there are carrots and potatoes and meat and whatever, peas in there. And then there's the sauce. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, if I ladle out some of this into 2 different bowls, they're going to have totally different compositions, right? Somebody might have more meat, somebody might have more of another ingredient. So, how do I accurately track that? So, there are kind of 2 ways to go. This is definitely a challenge if you are creating one recipe and then you're sharing that with others. So, if you make that stew and then you're feeding your kids and yourself, so not the whole recipe is going into you. So that is honestly very challenging, and I don't have a good solution for you for that. But when you hear the other 2 suggestions, maybe you'll come up with kind of a good way to deal with this or to think about this. If it's just you eating that entire stew, let's say you make a batch of it and you're going to have it for lunch for the next 4 or 5 days, then you have nothing to worry about, because what you're going to do is you're going to track exactly what you put into that stew. And then you're going to eat all of the calories of what you put into that stew. You might get a little bit off in how many of those calories happen Monday, how many Tuesday, how many Wednesday, how many Thursday, as long as your calories for stew over those 4 days end up equaling what that whole recipe's worth of calories is, you're golden. Because your calorie tracking, you don't need to stick into your calorie guidelines on an absolute, like every day you have to be exactly spending that many calories or eating that many calories. But what you need to think about is that over the course of the week, you stay within your calorie budget, right? Sort of like if your mom gave you lunch money for the week, yeah, you could divide it by 7 and spend the same amount of money each day. Or you could decide to eat something a little bit cheaper on some days and something a little bit more expensive on other days, but you're still spending all that money. Same thing with that stew when you are the only one eating it. Okay. So maybe a solution is that you make yourself a batch that you're going to eat all week, and then you make another batch for your family. And you don't need to make it like back to back. You could have 2 pots and you're making one pot with your ingredients and then the other that the family eats out of, and like that. That could be one solution. And then another option, and this doesn't work for all, like maybe a beef stew would not be a good option for this, but if you puree the soup. So if you have, I forget what you call it in English, but like if you're putting in potato and sweet potato and, all kinds of veggies, and then you cook them up and you puree them at the end. So you've got this soup. Yeah, that's like that. Then it's not a problem to share it with your kids and whoever else wants to eat with you, because it's homogeneous, because you've done the pureeing, right? So at that point, what you do is you first calculate how many calories in that entire soup, right? And then if like, let's say the soup has 1,000 calories, or well, let's make it 100 calories just for easy math. But of course, the soup will have a lot more than 100 calories. But let's say it was 100 calories. Then you weigh it, and let's say, for the ease of math, that it weighs 100 grams, that whole pot of soup. So now you know that if you scoop out, let's say, 10 grams for yourself, that's 10% of the soup. So you're going to eat 10% of the calories of that whole soup. So it'll be 10 calories in this example case. And that works also like if you're making breakfast smoothies for the whole family or for you and somebody else. Of course, it takes that step of weighing the finished smoothied, pureed product in order for you to do this. So, yeah, those are some ways to get that recipe actually measured accurately for yourself. Okay, great. So the next one that I get a lot is about protein powders. So how do you choose a good one? So a good protein powder for our purposes here is one that is mostly protein or all protein. I guess they can't be like 100% protein, but to have as little additional calories on top as you can. Because I tell you, they sell things out there that are more like protein recovery powders, where it's for people like my son who plays ice hockey and he needs the protein, but he also needs the calories to fuel his exercising. We are more interested in just the protein, and then we want to eat the calories other places, right? Because we're not like dying to get in more calories at this point. Back when I was 20 and playing in Division One lacrosse, yes, that was an issue for me. Okay, but then, so how do you choose one? You want to look at the nutrition information and look at the column that tells you the nutrition information for 100 grams, or that's the one I'm going to walk you through. You could look at the other one too, but the math is a little bit easier with the 100-gram thing. So, protein, if you have pure protein, it is 4 calories per gram. So, what you want to do is you want to do a calculation where you look at how many calories are in 100 grams of that protein powder and how many grams of protein are in that 100 grams of protein powder. And you want to divide the calories by the grams. And then you'll come up with a number. The number will be somewhere between 4 and, I guess the sky's the limit, but usually it's somewhere between 4 and let's say 20. Okay. The closer you get to 4, the closer that powder is to being just protein. For example, the protein powder that I use, it is 5. So it's quite close to 4. And actually, you can do this calculation for anything that you want to evaluate. Is this actually high protein or is it not high protein? Is there a lot of other stuff? For example, protein bars. Protein bars are not going to be as close to being pure protein as the protein powder is because, you have all the ingredients that go into making it taste like chocolate and having all the crunchies and whatever. So with a protein bar, you'll probably get somewhere closer to 10 or even over 10. And I've kind of set my own limit, and the limit that I recommend is that if it's more than 10 calories per gram of protein, then it's candy, right? It is like, because you're more than paying double for that gram of protein. My own protein bars are hovering just below 10. And it's something that I know and I have kind of calculated into my life that this is my treat that I have for myself. And it's 200 calories for the bar and it's 22 grams of protein. So you can see it's a little bit better than 10 calories per gram. It's a little bit lower than 10 calories per gram is what I mean by better. But I enjoy it, right? And it's my treat. And then I don't feel like I need to go have some candy or whatever. Plus, the protein bars, I always have one in my purse because if I am out doing something and I get really hungry, it's very hard to make good food choices on the spot. So I'll eat my protein bar and that'll tide me over till I can get myself to a proper meal. So that is definitely a calculation that learn to do it and start reading the labels when you are in the grocery store because that will really help you to identify the ones that are actually high protein versus I don't know what kind of regulations they have, but everything is calling themselves protein, protein, protein. It's become the new marketing gimmick. And believe me, there are differences. But generally, the protein powders are going to be better for getting protein than the bars. And the other thing I get asked about the protein powders is, do I mix it with something else? Well, why? They have so many flavors, even here in Finland and in the States. I remember the last time I was there, I was like, holy cow, they really have variety there. So if you don't like the Oreo cookie flavored one, try the vanilla or the chocolate or the strawberry or whatever. You're bound to find something that you can tolerate enough that you can chug it, right? And the one thing that I do put into my protein powders, mix in with them, is my creatine. And I just use creatine monohydrate, the cheapest one there. No point in having any of the gimmicky, more expensive ones. Just go into Target or whatever I just get it at my grocery store. I pick the cheap, no name brand one, and that's the studied one. That's the one that they know gives results. And all the other variants, I mean, it's marketing, right? And by the way, I do have a page on my website, befitafter40.com/stuff, where I list a few protein powders that my clients have liked and that I've checked the nutrition information on. So if you want some recommendations, there are some there. The other thing I wanted to say is that if you are wondering, how do I do all this tracking well and how do I make dieting a little bit easier? I have my Midlife Fat Loss Formula. It is a do-it-yourself course. In it, you'll learn what's going on with us in midlife that's causing this weight gain, how to set up your calorie deficit, how to actually calculate your calorie deficit, how to track your eating accurately so you can actually put yourself into a real calorie deficit, how to set up your meal plans. I give you resources like protein cheat sheet of foods that are very filling and have fiber for the calories, and a cookbook. So a lot of resources to help you be successful with your fat loss. And even if you are not dieting, this is a great course to do. For example, if you're having that problem of, hey, I want to increase my protein, but I don't want to increase my overall calories, use this method. That way you will be sure to hit your protein targets and not start overdoing it on the calories. I used the Midlife Fat Loss Formula to lose fat 3 years ago. I lost the 10 pounds in 10 weeks, and then I've maintained it using the principles of that course. And it makes just mealtime so much easier for me now. I don't want to go downstairs because I work from home. I don't want to go downstairs at lunch and be like, I'm hungry, what's in the fridge? And then start eating whatever and then not feeling satiated. And then I want to go down and eat some more. I always have something on hand, usually something that I made a batch of or something that I can quickly make a batch of if it's a day that it's run out and that kind of thing. So it really has, it has been such a game changer in the decision fatigue that I had every day around eating. So, and it's a quick to go through course. It's about an hour of material. And then the work is, of course, you doing the calculations and then figuring out what you want to eat. Because I'm not going to tell you that, hey, you need to buy this kind of bread and this kind of topping. No, you're going to look at what you normally like to eat or want to eat and figure out from there what is a good plan. So, yeah. So that's the Midlife Fat Loss Formula, and I'll put the link to that also in the show notes. All right. And if you have other questions about fat loss, then please send them in. Let me know because I'd love to do another episode. This is something that I feel like I would love for every woman to be more aware of how they're eating, what they're eating, make it less stressful, and so that food is no longer kind of this thing that's all the time like, oh, can I eat this? I can't eat this. I shouldn't eat now. I need to stay under this many calories, because we've been raised to just have this constant conversation with ourselves about food. And once you know what you can eat and then you just follow that, it's such a relief. You have so much more energy to focus on other things like mental energy. Plus, your physical energy is higher because you're feeding yourself and you're getting in the protein and on all the things that you need. Okay. All right. So with that, I wish you a wonderful spring and see you next week. Happy training.